Hello there and welcome back to Cuckoo for Books. My name is Salva and today I'm going to be doing a book review on Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare. This is the second book in the Dark Artifices series. We have a lot to tackle in this review. It's a 700-page novel, so let's jump straight into my review. This was one of the first rare books in a while where it was just glued to my hip the entire time I was reading it. I could not stop reading it and I just wanted to stay in the world for as long as possible. I think after, what, 11 books, you get really comfortable in a universe. The thing with Cassandra Clare novels is that they're great for binging. I can tell you the general plot of her series, but I cannot tell you what happened in which novel. They just sort of blend together. That being said, I think that Lord of Shadows is not as great as the first book in the series. What I really loved about Lady Midnight was that it was a straight up mystery. There was a task, there was someone killing people, they have to find out who does it, and then there's the romance side, which is she can't fall in love with her parabatai. For Lord of Shadows, they were trying to juggle way too many things. From the opening flap summary alone, they had to deal with the Lord of Shadows, who is the unseelie king in the world of fairy, and then they're dealing with like really racist, bigoted Shadowhunters who think that downworlders should be like registered, and then they're dealing with the romance side. I'm in love with my parabatai, how can I break it? And then they're dealing with another side of fairy, the Seelie Queen, and they're dealing with the undead Annabelle. At the end, it all leads to one point at the very end, but I felt like throughout the novel they were just trying to juggle too much. The novel didn't really mesh well. There was no flow to the novel. Correct me if I'm wrong if this has been done in other Cassandra Clare novels, but I feel like with this novel, she jumped points of view way too quickly. Like within one chapter, she probably changed points of view in different worlds, in different settings, at least 7 times. With each paragraph, it was like, now we're in the world of fairy, now we're in London, now we're in LA, and it was like, slow down! I think what she was trying to do was, you know, in movies where it's an action scene and you sort of see different points of view of the battle. First you're with Iron Man and then it switches over and then you're dealing with Captain America. I think that's what she was going for, but in book form, it did not play out well. It just felt very disrupted. So that I think was my biggest problem with this novel. What I did like about the novel was the way it fleshed out their characters even more. I could have done with a little more world building, but I really like how Cassandra Clare took the time to develop her characters. People who I didn't like in the first book, I definitely liked a bit more, like Christina and Kieran. I think she does that really well, make you empathize with her characters. No, she doesn't do that very well. I hate Clary. I think this, out of all the spin-off novels, has the most input from characters from the original series. I don't want to mention who shows up in this book because that's a spoiler. We do see a lot of familiar faces. I liked it. It wasn't gratuitous. They weren't just there to show up. They themselves had some character development going on. Even though their series has finished, their story within the universe is still ongoing. Like, they're not just frozen in their happily ever after, which I really appreciate, and I thought that was a good touch. I think also one of my biggest issues was that the whole idea of the cohort, in the summary it says that there are a bunch of Shadowhunters who are completely biased against downworlders. I would have loved to see a lot of their motivations behind it, like, why are you guys so racist? I get it, there was a war, but why is this specific group super racist towards fairies and downworlders while the others are cool with it? What specifically caused you guys to go off the deep end and turn into Nazi Shadowhunters? That's all I can say right now without giving too much away, so if you've read the book or you're okay with spoilers, jump on, avoid the spoiler chain. Choo-choo! This book's romances really worried me, dude. Are you guys headed for a threesome? Is this where Kieran and Mark and Christina are going? Is this where Ty and Livy and Kit are going? And I was so glad when they brought it up in the novel, so I was like, oh, you see it too. We're not just pretending that this isn't a thing. Cassandra Clare has done like questionable romance choices in the past. I wouldn't even blink if that's what she decided to go with. I really hope we see more of Diana in the third book. It would be such a waste if they brought up this entire plot of her being a transgender Shadowhunter only to have it show up in one chapter and never mentioned again. I want to know how that affects her. Is she going to be head of institute? Is the Clave going to find out that she's transgender and, you know, accept her anyway? So I really hope that plot point shows up. I always prefer sort of verbal banter, interrogation types of endings versus just like action and battle. So the ending where all the Shadowhunters try to question whether Annabelle's testimony is real, I just thought that was interesting because you never know how those conversations can go. You know what went through my mind towards the very last scene? What happened to Livy? You mean, Dumbledore, you've been raising Harry like a pig for slaughter. That's exactly what Livy is. Like, she was given a much more substantial role in this novel to get you to attach yourself to her, only to have her be killed. Ah! She deserves better. Justice for Livy. Ty was gonna be parabatai with Livy, and now she died, so it's Kit who's gonna replace. Like, it's pretty obvious. I felt like that plot was rendered useless. I was like, that's good character development. No, that's now contrived. I was very not happy with the way the book ended. Last thing I want to say is that I'm really glad that I read this book maybe 10 months after it was published, because the book left us on such a cliffhanger. If I had read this and there was a 1.5 year wait for the next book, I would have been very, very pissed. I'm really excited to read the third book, and I hope questions will be answered. This was one of the few books when I finished it I was like, I need more. I need to still be in this universe, but I will not watch the TV show. That is a line I will not cross, because no. And that about does it for my Lord of Shadows book review. You can follow me on my other bookish adventures on Twitter and Instagram, both at Cuckoo for Books. Please subscribe, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye guys.